I think this is going to surprise pretty much all of you. Take a look. Mitt Romney said, millions of Americans are struggling to make ends meet. I'm introducing a bill with Senator Tom Cotton that would increase the minimum wage while ensuring businesses cannot hire illegal immigrants. We must protect American workers. Congress hasn't raised the minimum wage in more than a decade, leaving many Americans behind. Our proposal gradually raises the minimum wage without costing jobs, setting it to increase automatically with inflation, and requires employers to verify the legal status of workers. Okay. So, surprising, right? Pretty surprising. Now, interestingly, this actually has something to do with some, I don't know if it was GOP staffers or the politicians themselves. They saw a segment that's a Saagar and Jetty segment, where Saagar basically rips Republicans for not ever actually doing anything economically populist. And, Trump used the language from time to time, never delivered. Hawley used the language, rarely if ever delivers. And so he ripped him on this, and I guess it was on the minimum wage specifically. Somehow it got to some Republican staffers, and somehow it got to Republican politicians, and they saw it, and they were convinced. So he actually moved them a little bit. That's amazing. Credit to him on that, because it's super rare that you can move these people. They're usually so dumb, but also so corrupt that they would never. But congratulations, he actually did it. Now, but here's the thing. This is damning with faint praise, because they didn't even release the number yet of what it's going to be. We're going to raise the minimum wage. What are you going to raise it to? Pee pee poo poo. What are you doing? We're going to raise it. Okay. Got some deets, bro? Got some details, or? No, I don't. Okay, then let me bring you to a place I like to call Shut the Fuck Upsville. Because you belong there. Like, what are you doing? So, we don't know the number, but I'm going to make a prediction right now. It ain't going to be 15. It's going to be less than 15. How low are they going to go? I don't know. Maybe they'll do 10. Maybe they'll do 12. But I don't think they're going to do 15. And so, here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. You could actually make an argument that this is worse than doing nothing. Why? Because if you're going to use political capital and take on this fight when it comes to the minimum wage, you have to at least raise it to a living wage. Because you can't waste all the political capital, still have it be a starvation wage, and then also it's chained to inflation, so which means they'll never revisit the issue ever again. Because they say, hey, you get automatic raises because it's tied to inflation. What do you want me to tell you? So think about that, man. That is seriously devastating. If they propose a minimum wage increase, and if it's not a living wage, you're going to waste all your political capital, you're not going to be able to revisit the issue because it's chained to inflation, and it's still starvation wages, and workers would be desperate. So no. This is actually, in the same way that, like, you shouldn't praise some neoliberal corporate Democrat if they, when the rhetoric was $15 an hour, if they said 10 or 12, in the same way that's like, sort of fuck you, like you got to come up to a living wage number, you should feel the same way about the Republicans. Do not feel like, oh, we'll hold them to a different standard because they're worse. They are worse, but you definitely shouldn't and don't have to hold them to a different standard. A good policy is a good policy is a good policy. And again, the downsides of doing this, wasting the political capital and not even making it a living wage, oh, that's out of this world. And then, of course, they had to sprinkle in their little conservative twist on it, like, raise the minimum wage, but also fuck the immigrants. Fuck the immigrants? Fuck the immigrants. Fuck them. Fuck them. So they had to do something, right? Like, they weren't just going to be like, yeah, let's raise it to a living wage and let's call it a day. So, the only good news is if you zoom out and look at the macro picture, this is what's called the Overton window shifting. Why is the Overton window shifting? In part because of the immense amount of activism around this issue. Credit to Fight for 15. Credit to unions. Credit to every single group that's unapologetic on this front, pushing relentlessly. That's the only reason why we are where we are. And politicians who've led the charge, like Bernie, for example, among others. That's the only reason we're here. And this should be a lesson to everybody. You need to be loud. You need to be persistent. You need to be consistent. You need to shift that Overton window through pure force of will and effort. And like what people are learning now is, oh, that actually works. Takes time, but it works. So dedicate yourself and never take your foot off that gas pedal, because eventually you shift the Overton window at the macro level, and now you have, the Democrats out there for 15, and they're probably going to say 10 or 12. And again, it's Weasley bullshit, but at least that Overton window is shifting. So there you have it, man. They're dipping their toe into, like, that's the other thing is, since we have a pandemic and a depression, they probably realize that electorally they can't get away with not at least pretending to try to be more populist, And so that's what this is. It's bullshit, it's Weasley, it's nonsense, but there's a recognition there that, like, the era of big government is over, that era is gone. And now we need to enter, like, a New Deal era, a new FDR era where big government is actually welcomed, because all the problems we have right now, you can't solve them without big government. And so this is, inching in that direction, albeit a tiny bit.